main intention of this podcast is we kind of bring thought leaders like you from the industry and also other startups and vendors as well, right? Who wants to sell to big enterprises. What is your thought process or the company's methodology in terms of build versus buy, right? Or partner for certain solutions? What guidance would you want to give, and also what kind of strategy that you guys follow?
One of the things in my role at Citi is I also chair the Data Architecture Council, which is a council that we put in place to make sure that all the architectural decisions in terms of like what the strategy or what the products that we want to bring in that works well to make sure that we have a cohesion in terms of our target state. I think that's the work that I've been personally involved as well. In terms of our framework that we apply, I would say there is an option to build, either buy or partner with someone. So in that sense, what we do is like if it is a differentiated capability that Citi wants to have their IP and we want to have the ownership of the uniqueness that we continue to execute in that space, we tend to do the build. And
Mm,
if it is a product that is well established in the industry, it's not a differentiator. It is more like a commodity space, then we will more likely buy those things at this time. And then, especially in newer technologies that are emerging, it is still to be proven out. I think what we do is like we use our venture arm to either do the investments where there is
mm,
acceleration in growth and kind of through that channel also we engage with upcoming new emerging technologies to evaluate how they are. Those would fall more in the partnership area. So that is how we kind of look at it from the framework perspective, Deepak. But with respect to the opportunities right now, we see like every week we get to hear from someone doing something in this space, be it fraud or KML, KYC. Each one of the space has been like inundated with new technology or new ways of solving those problems. So, but we put this lens. Obviously, our goal is to kind of keep it vendor agnostic, right? To the extent that is possible. When we were on our journey to cloud, we also talked about multi-cloud strategy and to
yeah.
make sure that we have the ability for us to not get locked in. So that kind of principle is it prevails across all of our decision making to make sure that we are standards based. So for example, all of our data storage is primarily moving towards Iceberg. That is, I think, is industry wide. Everyone
Yep.
is
Standard.
moving.
Mhm.
So that kind of reduces the friction in terms of like what a particular proprietary format or technology if we use, then it becomes harder for us to migrate, especially data, right? So I would say from strategy perspective, keep it agnostic to a proprietary technology to get locked into a particular vendor. I think if we see the vendors, we ask for the open standards and those kind of things is more appealing for us. I think that would be the case for most of the large enterprises that I've seen, both in the finance and as well as others. And I would say, especially in the finance, the understanding of the financial and the regulatory environment from vendors' perspective is something that we keenly observe and see that it is not a general solution that
Correct.
now needs a big investment to make it work for a financial institution. So the level of discussion that we have to make sure that it is fully secure and meets all the compliance needs and things of that nature, those are the things that we do extra filter beyond the capabilities and offering itself.
Yeah. I think you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask about the knowledge in the finance domain from the vendor, but talked about, the regulatory compliance that
Yeah,
they need
yeah.
to go through, and also KYC, all those things are very,
I mean, I think a
domain.
lot of the solutions that I see in this evolving technology, and especially in more emerging spaces, are a lot more generic in nature, right? I mean,
Mm,
how do we make sure that those are further tuned towards solving a particular
Yeah.
financial needs. I think that is where I would say like some of the vendors do differentiate to make sure they understand the domain or they come from industry background to be able to like solve the needs in a particular way.
Yeah. I think it's a fast moving space. Everybody wants to kind of go horizontal and see where they, their highest traction is and then, right, hedge their bet on it, I guess. Um, but that's good. Do you have any preference in terms of cloud or on-prem, especially when it comes to AI?
I mean, I think there are areas where we have to have our data on-prem as well, right? So it can't be 100% moved to cloud because of the global nature of how we operate across so many different jurisdictions. So, and there is the country-specific regulations in terms of data localization and other needs that needs to be taken into consideration. So I would say um, we would not claim any large enterprise like us working across so many jurisdictions to say all of the data is in cloud. But
Mm,
our aspiration is to kind of keep that core anchor to make sure that we reduce the duplication traditionally that we used to have in the lines of businesses to have like single authorized copy of data in the cloud that is allowed to be able to use it for multiple use cases that I talked about.
mm,
I think that's where our strategy was to kind of reduce the data fragmentation, move to more modern and cloud technologies that allows us to be able to tap into the innovation and the opportunities that are presented there. So we kind of working through those to modernize the platform to begin with. And then with Gen AI and other capabilities that are coming up, I think a lot of that is more tending towards cloud naturally.
mm.
But I think over time there might be some opportunities where the cost might be
Yeah.
something that we need to consider and see where there is a good balance of what can be done on-prem that allows us to be more conscious about the cost as well.
Yeah, like a local model too, right? Potentially for
Mhm.
certain use cases too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any emerging trends? What's on your radar? Other than some of the things that we talked about, but do you obviously I see that you attend a lot of CDAO conferences and
I've been recently attending some of these because of the changing nature of this role. I was recently attending the Deloitte CDAO Leadership Summit, and the things that I've observed is like all the organizations are um, trying to figure this out in terms of like there is no established blueprint as to what is the pathway forward for enabling AI at a scale, enterprise scale. And with respect to your topic about agentic, there is aspiration for all the enterprises to kind of do as much of the automation and autonomous agents to be able to derive the upside of doing that, right? Being able to like in multi-step financial workflows, be it
Mm,
compliance checks or customer onboarding to exception handling, all of those. Today, every step along the way is a human is involved. There are certain areas where we can reduce that interaction with human and be able to do risk-based approach to involve agentic and autonomous decision making in the intermediate steps and have the human in the loop to make sure that ultimately it is um, someone a human is looking at to make the decision valid. I think that part is arriving fast. Uh,
mm.
and that would be the change I would say like from my chat with all the colleagues, everyone is have that in the top of their mind to see how that needs to be scaled up for enterprises. A
Yeah.
couple of other areas is, I mean, traditionally, the creating the semantic data has become a lot more simpler and easier now for us to be able to do like a lot of the customer-centric data testing, the MDM implementation of those, and the use cases to be able to do that. I think it's become a lot more nimble in terms of the ability for us to be able to use the models to build that data sets that are unique or distinct without having to do the production copy and masking,
Yeah.
anonymizing, and all of that. Cycle used to be much longer in the past. So that I think is another area. And then the real-time data has been something that financial institutions has been in a slow journey to move from our batch processing to more real-time and
Streaming. Yeah.
right. So that has been a journey by itself, and be able to make it through the journey of digital transformation itself that has been taken hold. To
Hmm.
say like when you change your address or you do a deposit or all of those things, we don't wait for the end of the day, but it is like instantly get reflected in some of the things that can be done to at least in the digital experiences to show up before it is posted in our ledger and other things, right? So those I think those are become key areas of focuses within financial institutions. And finally, I would say like we are starting to see ability for us to share data without having to copy data on in memory or anything like that, or in any storage device. In terms of how we can do that using snowflakes of the world to be able
Yeah.
to share data across
Data sharing.
institutions. I
Yeah.
think that those are definitely much more secure in terms of how we do it. Those have become more, I would say, the trend of how we are leveraging data for this better decision making.
Got it. So data sharing within your enterprise to multiple departments is that what you're
Both
referring to?
internally and as well as to external, to partner sharing as well, right? So
Oh,
where
okay.
that is appropriate. We have large partners like American Airlines or Comsys of the
Yes.
world, and
Cards
there
and
is
so.
like,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
there are opportunities where we can securely manage data, those data sets that are allowed to be shared within those enterprises, right? So that has become more possible with the newer technologies as opposed to having the traditional ways of data sharing.
Yeah. I think that's really amazing that a company like yours is actually open to working, partnering with others to data share and, right? I think that's very important. And you talked about the AI stale data, it's useless, AI is useless, right? So having that real-time streaming data that comes in, adopting to Iceberg as standard, so that way, you can, you're not vendor locked in. You
Yeah.
can pick any other vendor supporting the same format and also open semantic, right? I think that's another important thing. Those are all really cool things that you guys are doing. Um, can you talk about some human AI collaboration? We have only a few more questions. Human AI collaboration in terms of how you are seeing that your company folks are adopting, how fast are people catching on to the AI phenomenon?
Yeah, I think as I was telling you, I think AI would significantly impact every job in some ways, and it would be done. It would be for the positive thing, in my opinion. It improves the productivity. I know there's like a lot of doomsday prediction of having jobs impact and all of that. I would say my thought process or where my head is like it will be more for a positive in a way that the pace of change is fast. I need to adapt to that pace of change that we see in this round of innovation that is happening. But I would say there will be new jobs that are going to open up as well. Things like that are not in the past, like even simple thing as prompt engineering or AI
Hmm.
engineering to AI governance to how we scale the ML ops. All of those things are traditionally not have a unique role, or those would start to show up in terms of who we hire or how we kind of train our, existing workforce. I would say that transformation would happen. there are going to be a lot more new roles and capabilities that would come in. What would AI not replace is our human judgment, the context, the understanding, the communication, the empathy. All of those things are still important that we um, collate that along with the AI opportunities to scale it fast, and be able to do it in a productive way. I would say that combination is what makes a winning combination, and that differentiates the companies who are doing well versus companies who are stumbling along and doing some things in a much more localized way of adoption rather than like enterprise-wide adoption.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I would say is where industry is moving.
So you're more of a you're an AI optimist rather than a AI,
Yeah, I've been like personally been an eternal optimist. So from that perspective, I'm not bought into this thought that it would cause a. I mean, it is definitely a disrupting technology. I don't want to undermine that aspect of it, but I would say like it would need to go through a transition, and I think this is a change in human behavior and culture. Those are not things easily take root in large enterprises. So, but I would say the number of roles that we have in Citi opened at any given time, a lot of them have AI as a skill that is being asked now, right?
that's yeah.
So I think that would be the shift that we will see as we move into the next few years of this transformation.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what domain industry expertise you have some AI skill, right? That need to have in your resume. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
makes
No, I
sense.
think in terms of like how we um, use AI to improve your productivity, and as well as how like the unlocking of that value, and it is going to be a personal journey for everyone to go through. I mean, now obviously through a professional experience that you have in large enterprise, you will get through the training, the know-how, and all of that, and the best practices that are being taught. But I would say for everyone to lean forward and be able to start to use it yourself. I think personally, my experience has been that I generated more code than my entire life in the last 6 to 9 months. So, and that is accelerating every time I see it because it's so addictive in one ways to be able
Yep.
to do that.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like uh, you will be able to do it in a weekend in the past. You could do that now, right? So that
Yeah.
unlocks a lot of opportunities, and that goes by for everyone that is in the daily course of doing work at be it at home personally or even at professional level. I think that is what the journey everyone has to embark on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's well said because people, job description is going to change, right? Companies already change job description. And I think that's actually a good, I would say closing segment. I would say maybe I'll ask you two questions. It seems like you are not skeptical about AI, but is there any area of skepticism that you still have that,
I would say like the traditional importance that we used to have for a rockstar developer in terms of ability to code things. Now you are competing with the keystrokes of a machine that is much more faster and more adept, right? So in terms of like having to know the traditional coding language or the semantics and all of those things would be less regarded as capabilities. Um, but I think the more important thing is about understanding the business, understanding the domains, and understanding the human judgment and the context. I think those things are the ones that would be more nuanced and more areas where you can differentiate um, in terms of the skills that are priced earlier, someone who can be a great developer. That part I think will see some shift
yeah,
because if you're just focusing on writing a most I would say a SQL developer who's writing queries might not be needed to be having that level of semantic knowledge, because Gen AI be able to do that. If you are given the framing of the problem, it automatically does that. So I think that knowledge about specific things might not be needed. I've seen one of my friends, not related to Citi, but he was saying they had old to 25-year-old technology that is run for their logistics. And Gen AI is able to look at all the modules, be able to identify where it needs to change the code, and how do you fix it or enhance that capabilities, instead of like retiring that platform that for 25 years old mainframe code. They are like continuing to enhance it using Gen AI technology. So the know-how and those kind of things, I think, will unlock more value on the investments that we have done, and be able to see some surprises as well, where people might not be thinking that everything. We have seen many times that people said mainframes will be dead during our digital revolution, and even now everyone says that. But you will be in for some surprises that Gen AI might give a different solution than what we are anticipating.
That's great to hear. Any words of wisdom for young graduates and young people who are getting into the workforce? Because
I
you
think
see
that
a
is
lot.
one of the areas that I am closely observing, is like there is obviously the environment for fresh grads. Usually we have been engaging them as an apprentice to do things to learn along the way in the enterprise. I think now with Gen AI being able to do the entry level tasks more easily, I think there is a fallacy that we can go about without having those fresh grads to be able to come through the ranks. I think it would be a mistake for large enterprises or generally the companies to not invest in human capital,
Yeah.
because I think wherever there is opportunities, we need to be able to engage that body of people to be able to come through the ranks for our future growth and future needs of future leaders. For the folks itself, I would say like embrace the technology, embrace the things that are happening, as opposed to sitting on the sidelines. I would say that would be the way to go, because this is here to stay. It's not a fad by any means. So I suggest that they use that in their own unlocking their productivity, their knowledge. I think it's accelerant in my sense that it can provide everything that you're good at, will make you great by leveraging Gen AI appropriately. And if you are something that you are average or not aware of, you can still use Gen AI to be able to get you to a better place than where you are,
Yeah.
without having as much of deep knowledge, right? So I think from that perspective, if you start to be in the positive frame of reference, then I think it will be a great enabler as opposed to a hindrance to find a job.
Yeah, and also having that, developing that domain specific vertical knowledge, right? So industry knowledge, because technology will become second nature to anything, like you mentioned, right?
Right, right.
So important. So, well, Anil, I think this has been an absolute pleasure having you in the podcast. I think the the knowledge that you have in the industry and also the ideas that you shared with us, I think it'll help people who are watching the podcast in terms of how they should be thinking about the Gen AI adoption, and also when they are ready for the agentic revolution, right, in their enterprises, especially regulated industry like yours. That's super important. And finally, your thoughts on how human capital can evolve in the age of AI. I think that's super important. Um, Thank you for having.
Really appreciate it. I enjoyed the session, Deepak.